Welcome to Coleman Report Live, your go-to source for all things small business lending. My name is Katie Roach, and I will be your host today. Bob is still out on vacation, but I'm joined today by special guest community bank reporter John Riosti and Coleman instructor Lance Sexton. So before we go into polls, John, why don't you catch us up on PPP? Is it over? What's going on?
Well, it appears the lending is over. No, that's not even true. I take that back. The lending is now limited to the CDFIs, the MDIs who are authorized to participate in that last pool of somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe between $8 and $9 billion. And then there's some money allocated or held in reserve to resolve any unresolved hold code loans, and that's all she wrote for the lending. So for most banks, the vast majority of PPP lenders, they are done lending, and it now the focus turns to forgiveness.
Hey, John.
Right, so
Katie, I'm sorry. John,
no,
there's been some brief discussion that Congress might potentially look at an emergency authorization for some additional funding. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I hadn't. I apologize. I am coming up for air. I've been working on a different project, but I had not heard that. But that surprises me because Congress had two opportunities to refresh the funding in the bill that was proposed by Senator Cardin and the others to sort of get remaining SBA funding to a wider number of farmers, ranchers, and sole proprietors. That was, I think that was about 2 weeks ago. And then when they actually did extend the program 2 months, those were perfect opportunities to add funding, and now we're at this. So I guess raises questions about did the funding sort of run out quicker than people expected?
Well, I think one of the things, John, that I don't think they have time, Congress does, to extend additional funding before the end of May. Absolutely. I mean,
right. The other thing that I would frankly be surprised if they do is you go back to those two bills I just mentioned. It's not oversight that they just didn't think about it or carelessness. It's appetite as well. Is there appetite? Is there sort of enthusiasm for keeping this program running in Congress? It's tough. I talked to someone who mentioned it's certainly been tough on the banks. It's been tough on the agency as well. And, the longer it goes, the longer it will take to for everybody to turn the next corner or to get back to normalcy, as they put it. So I would be surprised, honestly. I'll go out on a limb and say if that sort of turns into something more substantial, I would be surprised.
Well, why don't we go ahead and go into this first poll question, and what are you waiting on the most? What's the most important item on this list? PPP extension is possible, but like we just discussed, it's still in the early phases of discussion and possibly not even going to happen. But maybe there's still a lot of people out there who want that. We're also still waiting on guidance for 504, refi, servicing delinquent SBA loan, PPP loans, and expiration of the 7A and 504, 11, 12 payments. So it looks like most of our audience is concerned about that 11, 12 payments, which doesn't surprise me at all. I believe some of those are ending now. Lance, how are you handling that on your end?
well, I think that the 11, 12 payments certainly were a great thing for small businesses, but many of the small business borrowers just got their last two payments, and I think that one of the things that's going to be a struggle as we come out of this is a lot of those businesses got 6 payments, so they didn't have to pay their payments, until November or December of last year. So they paid them for a couple months, and then all of a sudden they get a couple more. And some have received more than that. But I think the biggest struggle for participant bankers is you got somebody in the last 10 months who's had 8 payments made for them. Getting them back into the habit of making a monthly payment. In some cases, John and Katie, there'll be people who probably couldn't have made those payments who will come out and go into default once the 11, 12 payments in. But even your great borrowers, haven't had to make a payment in quite a while. So they're going to have to get back in the saddle and realize, I think the most important item, Katie, is participant banks communicating to the borrowers, hey guys, you've gotten all this SBA support through 11, 12 payments. That ended with your April payment. It's time for you to start making those payments again. I think it's really important to communicate that to the borrowers so they're prepared and knowledgeable that, hey, it's time to get back in the saddle and start making money transfers or writing checks for those payments. But I do think we'll see a pickup in struggling SBA borrowers now that the 11, 12 payments are about to end.
Yeah. Let's go on to the next poll. Are your offices currently open? This one we've been asking off and on throughout the pandemic, and I think last time we asked it, we had quite a few people actually working from the office, and some doing a hybrid. Oh, okay. So we still have the majority working from I don't know, remote and office. I guess is the hybrid is a nice feature. John, what are you doing?
I am still working from home. So.
Yeah, I think that's going to be another popular thing going forward. Just my dad's in the industry as well, and his offices are looking like they'll open maybe to an extent late summer, but right now they're still at home, and I think a lot of people are anticipating working from home for quite a while. We had the compensation report come out a few weeks ago, and I was working on that, and we actually had a significant number of people answer this question this time, saying that they actually feel more productive working from home, with only a few select positions saying that they would like to do some kind of hybrid or preferred working from the office. So it is going to be something we're watching moving forward throughout this year and in following years.
Well, and this is a concern that I have, having a lot of commercial real estate lending in my past. What's going to happen to commercial office space? The way we work is changed. I don't think everybody's going to go back 100% to the office, because companies have found out that employees are productive, that their performance is not missed a beat by working from home. So do you see companies downsizing and not using as much hard office space in the future? I don't know how you feel about it, John, but I think it may cause some commercial real estate to struggle, because those offices may not get populated like they were prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's just going into the office to get some signatures and things like that. You don't need a whole office space dedicated for each person every single time. So it's going to be very interesting going forward.
You could almost say you don't need a whole desk dedicated to people if you've got people coming in, somebody on Tuesday and Thursday and another on one Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I think the companies that do take office space will take less. So that gets back to your point, Lance, that there are
one of the things, John, we had telework at SBA when I was deputy director there, and we sat around and played around with the idea if we could get, one employee to telework Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the other employee to telework on Tuesday and Thursday, then they could share the same desk, which would have cut the need for office space in half. Now, we never did anything about it, but we certainly looked at it. So, I mean, you know, our company's going to look at the same thing.
And our last question is, do franchise loans perform better than mom and pops? And I believe this is from one of our webinars. Lance, what's the answer?
Well, it's a complicated answer. You know, mom and pops with long histories perform perfectly well. But if you're looking at a new startup opportunity, I think a franchise opportunity is going to outperform a mom and pop in most circumstances. But I think a lot of it depends on what I call the life of the business. If it's new, I like franchise. If it's a business with a 10-year history, you know, I tend to like mom and pops.
John, why don't we go into your reporting? We've been discussing this actually throughout the week a little bit, but what are you finding with 7A lending?
Both 7A and 504, and it's no surprise for 504, they've been setting records now, I guess, for probably 2 years or more. But 7A is really picking up, and this was last week, so it doesn't include the most recent update to the weekly lending reports, and that is another 600 plus million week for 7A. It's up in the neighborhood of or just exceeding 13.5 billion, which puts it above the pace of last year, 2020, but also above the pace of 2019. And I guess in shouting distance to 2018, which was, I think the record was 2017, or no, 2018 was a record year, I'm sorry. So if the thesis of that article is correct and the summer really heats up for 7A, and it might heat up faster than we thought with no PPP left. But if the summer really heats up, then you could have totals that are sort of approaching the limit, which, and you know, this is another thing for Congress to look at. Is there enough regular 7A funding and 504 funding? You know, that could be a problem. So, you know, they've got competing imperatives.
Right. What's driving that? Is that the 90% guarantee, or is it just the end of PPP, or what's going on?
I think a couple things. I'm not so sure it's so dependent on the end of PPP, but from the banker standpoint, they like the 90%, and maybe we should ask Lance. They like the 90% guarantee a lot for the obvious reasons. You know, it is an enhancement that's perfect for this time, because there are a lot of businesses that were damaged in the pandemic. They don't have a year, the most recent year of good financials that you'd want to see. So SBA then becomes a very nice program for them. You've got a good business with good prospects, maybe a long past, but not a very pretty recent past. So here you have a program that seems tailor-made for that. And obviously from the borrower standpoint, even though this is a loan and not a grant, it's a loan that if you take it now, you can lock in considerable savings from the fee waivers. So you've got that window. You've got a 4-month window roughly until September 30th, where you have a program that seems very well designed to meet the needs of the marketplace today.
Well, I think John hits it right on the head there. The 90% guarantee, a lot of customers who were probably in-house bank customers in 2019, 2020 caused them to become SBA customers. You know, right. Suddenly there are reasons that they can meet credit elsewhere, and they become more interesting to a bank with the 90% SBA guarantee for the borrowers as well. One of the struggles over the years to get a borrower to bite on an SBA loan was the size of the guarantee fee. The guarantee fee, on a regular 75% guaranteed SBA loan works out to about 2.25% of the loan. And, a lot of borrowers would back up and say, no, that's too much. Well, with a waiver of the guarantee fee, with 3, 11, 12 payments on new loans that originated before, I had a customer, we were talking about third-party reports, and we were doing a refinance, and the customer was upset about having to order a new appraisal. And I'm like, look, you're going to get 3 payments. It's double what your appraisal is going to cost. So there's your cost savings. So, I mean, I think it's a very relevant program. I think there are more small businesses now that are SBA type of customers than there was in 2019, 2018. And I agree with John. The funding for 7A and 504 could run out.
Yeah, and throw into the mix. I don't know when it's going to come, but I know it's going to come. The guidance on 504 refinance.
Oh,
and really 504 Express. I mean, that program is more than once I've heard the term used on fire. It's smaller, but that's a considerable program. It's well above $4 billion now.
Well, the thing, John and Katie, too, on 504s is when you look at the blended interest rate with those low debenture rates,
right?
It is a very attractive deal to a small business.
Right, and locked in, long term. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
I was just going to say, as soon as we get that guidance, Lance is going to have a webinar on it.
Someday.
I think it's going to be a very attractive loan program for a lot of borrowers and lenders alike. It's going to be a great program. We're just waiting on that guidance. I think now that if PPP really is over, I think the SBA might start focusing on some of their more traditional programs, and that's guidance that hopefully we can expect in the next couple of weeks. One of the other programs that the SBA has running right now that just opened was the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And the administrator published this earlier today, which is the numbers from the first 2 days alone. It looks like we have over 186,000 applications from restaurants and bars. 97,000 applications that came from businesses owned and controlled by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. Right now, it is notable that that's the only group that is eligible for the first 21 days. So that's why that number is going to be so high. But that is the group that's going to be actually receiving the loans for the first couple of weeks. We also have 61,700 applications from businesses under $500,000 in pre-pandemic revenue. So it is helping a lot of small businesses. We're going to continue kind of watching this, but this isn't so much on the lender side. It is good for lenders to be aware of it. I'm sure Lance has probably received a couple questions from customers asking what is this or if they're eligible, but it is something to be aware of that it exists. It's good to know how, if your borrower had a PPP loan, how that might affect them getting a restaurant revitalization fund. And in this case, it would cause a subtraction of how much they're going to actually be receiving from this fund. So it is something to be aware of, but it isn't so much on the lender side.
Well, from an SBA lender's perspective, Katie, the big positive here is if you have restaurants in your portfolio that are struggling, you want to point them in the direction of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund grant. So it is important to SBA lenders throughout the country. There are restaurants that may be struggling that this could be the difference in them making it to 2022 or not. So it is important to SBA lenders, even though we're not involved in the application process, but we want to point all of our restaurant customers to this. We want them to get this if at all possible.
Absolutely. We did get some news from the Summit Group, which is the contractor responsible for the PPP application platform. They have said that the SBA has instructed them to stop accepting new PPP applications, except for those submitted by CDFIs, MDIs, and CDCs. In order to do this, they've actually disabled access for lenders who are not eligible. So if you're getting a message saying that you can't access it, or if there's some kind of problem, that could be the reason why. You should still have access to everything else you need, though, to check on loans, to make sure they're working through the entire process, make sure that the loans have been accepted and been, issued loan numbers. From what we're understanding currently, and Lance, you could correct me if I'm wrong, if you have a loan number, then it's been accepted by the SBA and it's going to continue through the process.
Yeah, when SBA issues a loan number, the money is reserved. And so if a borrower, if you have a loan number for a small business borrower, it's good.
Okay, well, we're a little out of time, so I think tomorrow we're going to go over more about forgiveness. The SBA has issued a bunch of slides that are quite interesting, so we'll go over that tomorrow. These are our upcoming webinars. Lance, you want to give a quick plug for some of these?
Well, we're going to talk about servicing your PPP loan on the 19th. Of course, next week we're talking about COVID collateral requirements for your 7A loans. Always an exciting webinar is the restaurant financing. I would encourage you guys to participate. The statistical information by itself is worth the price of admission. And then someday, Katie, we will have the 504 refinance webinar.
Yeah, as soon as that guidance is out. Well, I hope you all have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a great day.